Hi, I'm Bridget Edell, and welcome to another edition of Lip Gloss and a Sander, the show where we take people out on the hunt for that perfect piece, that special piece of furniture or an accessory that they've been looking for to just make that space in their home look that much better. So today's guest is Dave Elder, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bridget.
You want to tell everybody what you're looking for?
Well, we just redid a pub room in our house. We have the bar, we have the fridge, we have artwork on the wall. What we're missing is a pub table, and we wanted something with a little character.
Okay, great. Well, this episode of Lip Gloss and the Sander is going to be slightly different. Many times people call me and they'll say, hey Bree, can you be on the hunt and look out for like a hall tree or that perfect bench or dresser. In this case, Dave had contacted me and said, Bree, when you're out and about junking and yard sailing, can you look for something for a pub table for our house? And this past weekend I was up in Pennsylvania and I found this really amazing wooden barrel. It's a wine barrel that I found, and I called them up and I said, what do you think? Many times I'm out and I find old dilapidated wine barrels that are very expensive and in bad shape. But last weekend I was so excited because I found this barrel and it was in a great price and it was in great condition. So today's show is going to be slightly different. We're going to start with this wine barrel idea for a pub table and go on the hunt for something for a top for it. And we're going to try and get some inspiration for a top. And what do you think of that idea?
I think that sounds great. It's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and also I wanted to tell everyone the really great thing about this wine barrel that I really liked was the man that sold it to me told me there was a history. The stamp on the top was the company dates back to the colonial times and had a history with George Washington. So it's really kind of a neat barrel for the price. We got an amazing barrel in great shape. And so it might be worth it to find maybe something that's maybe clear so you can see the actual stamp on it, and you'll have a history and a story behind it when you're using it for cards or games, or when the friends are over enjoying a glass of beer or something in your pub. So what do you think? Ready to go?
It sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay, great. We're here at the Germantown Historic Flea Market. They're open on the first Saturday of every month. And it's a beautiful Saturday morning, and we're going to go looking for a suitable top for the wine barrel. So the great thing about being at a flea market is that you can hit all these vendors all at one time, one-stop shopping. So I noticed here that there is a glass top table that I thought might be a good idea for your wine barrel top. So let's take a measurement of it. The wine barrel at its widest part is 25 inches, so we would need something definitely larger. So let's give it a try.
Okay.
Okay?
That's 24.
Okay. All right. Well,
Probably a little short.
Unfortunately, it's smaller than the widest part of the barrel. The top of the barrel is 22 inches, I think, 23. So it would just cover the top, and it wouldn't be the right size. A little too small. So let's keep looking and find something.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we've spent some time walking around the flea market. We've had a great morning so far. We've made some new friends. We bought a sign for your bar area in your house, and got some ideas for top of the wine barrel, but unfortunately we have not found the right piece, so we're going to keep looking for a little bit longer and see if we get some more inspiration for the table.
Sounds good.
All right.
Keep trying.
And I really like your outfit. How good we look together. Nice color coordination.
Me too, babe.
Always good about. All right, off we go. So I'm looking here and I see this glass right at this booth. What do you think? Let's go measure, because that could be perfect. It's definitely bigger than the last one.
That looks
All right.
great.
All right. Okay, so let's measure here and see from the widest part. Is it at least 32 inches?
36.
Oh my gosh, perfect. Okay.
You think that'll work?
I think that would work because the other one was, how many inches was the other one? 24.
It was only 24, yeah.
So I think with the top of the table, 22 inches, and then the widest part of the barrel, 25, like we've said, I think 36 inches would be absolutely perfect. It'll give you enough of an overhang on the top. Let's see if it's if it's a thickness of the glass. Yep. So
$25, that's not bad.
That's not bad. Let's see if maybe she'll take 20. Let's ask.
Okay.
We're going to ask and see if she'll take 20. We'll find the booth.
Are you interested in the tabletop?
Oh yes, absolutely. You're asking 25?
Yeah, I promised it to somebody for 20, but they weren't supposed to be here by 11:30 and they're not, so you can have it for 20.
Oh my gosh, that would be great. So perfect.
That's perfect. We'll
Great.
take it.
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't want to take it home.
We're going to use it for we're making a pub table out of a wine barrel.
Oh,
so
are you?
yeah. So it'll be perfect
I don't
time.
have any beer steins. Sorry.
You've
Thank
been in
you.
a pub before, though, haven't you?
Oh, many times.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
You've got. You want to
we're done with the flea market and we're heading to the workshop. Okay, here we are back in the studio, and this is your first glimpse at the barrel that I found last weekend at the flea market in Pennsylvania. So it's lovely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and you'll see here that what we need to do first is to try and work on these metal pieces. And the first thing we're going to do with those is to try and use a wire brush
Okay.
and see if we can scrape off any loose rust. Before we do that, you're actually going to put on your safety, the Bono glasses, and your mask, because you have to make sure you always have safety equipment on so you don't get injured. All right, so get my glasses on, my mask on. We're just going to take a brush, a wire brush that you can get in the local hardware store, and we're going to scrape along the metal bands and see if we can get loose rust off. So here we go. You can see immediately the color is changing from this. So I'll let Dave work on the top one. I'll work on the one below it. And just with lightly using the brush, you can see the color changing and the rust coming off. Okay, so we're done with this portion of the metal. We're using the wire brushes. So you can see from our method here that we were really lucky and we got a majority of the loose rust off. I don't know if you noticed when Dave and I were working, we used all three sizes. This brush, you use this, tell everybody about this brush.
Well, this is you get a lot of surface area at one stroke with this one, so this was real good on the fat part of the bands.
Okay, then I used this size brush and just kind of went along on just a regular stroke and just kind of got off the major parts right here. But then we needed this little tiny brush. Do you want to show everybody what you did with that brush?
Well, we had to get into the edges with the small brush so we could get the tops of these wire bands pretty well and down at the bottom of the barrel.
So right now I think we're ready to talk about what we're going to do with the next step of this now that the wire brush action is done. So what are you thinking about for this part?
You know, Bridget, I think there's some interest in getting back the original metal, but in my house where this is going to go, I think it would actually look better if it was in a kind of like a bronze or a brass finish. So I was thinking that since we got all the loose rust off, maybe we can go over with some metal paint and create like a bronze look of the metal. I think that would look really good with the in my house.
Yeah, well, that you can kind of see almost a different color with this the loose rust color there. We're going to end up sanding the barrel part, the wood part, and then if you weren't going to paint it and you wanted to get down to the original metal color, what I would suggest doing, you can take just some baking soda and a little bit of water in a cup and you make a little paste. And then you would just kind of rub it on this metal parts, like where the orange, where we just rubbed with the brush, and that would kind of, you can see on my hands, that's why I didn't wear the gloves, so we could show you how much comes off. And then you can, that baking soda paste would actually stay on, and then you would wipe it off with a wet rag, and that would help bring the metal back to the original finish. But Dave wants to paint it, so right now I think we're okay. We would just get a wet rag and clean off this excess that's on here now.
Yep.
If you felt like you didn't have enough, with the wire brush got enough rust off, you could also take a sanding block and work a little harder, you know, just by putting a little bit more force into it, a little more effort, and it would help get some of those spots off. But right now I think we're okay as far as the rust. We're very lucky. But that's also the next step if you wanted to do that. And then the third step would be if you wanted to use your sander. And you could use a sander and actually use a very coarse paper and try and blast off the rust without having to use a harsh chemical. That would be our suggestions for that. So I think we're ready to clean this up and then start on the sanding of the wood.
Sounds good.
Okay? So you can see we wiped down the metal, and you can see already how much cleaner and ready for paint it is. So we're going to be on to the next step. The next step, we're going to take the mouse sander and we're going to lightly sand the wood spots to even out any splinter areas or any excess debris or anything that's on, and we're going to get it ready for stain. So since Dave is pretty handy in the wood shop, he's going to go ahead and I'm going to let him go right to it. So
All right.
first you got to push the envelope.
So Bridget, you think we should spend a little time on the darker spots?
Yeah, I do. I think what we should do is definitely, if you want to try and even out the spots, you can see where Dave has already sanded. It's lighter, but some of the other spots that haven't been done yet are definitely lighter in areas than others. I'm sorry, darker in areas than others. So what you would want to do is either change your paper to make it coarser, or just really work harder on that one spot and try and get the color to be a little more consistent with the others. So you think we need a new sheet of?
Maybe a new sheet would be good.
Okay. Right now we're using 50 grit for our mount sander, so you can just show everyone how this is so simple. You just take, it's like Velcro, so you want to just adhere it. It's so easy. It sticks right on. And then go ahead, you want to show, can you see where the dark spots are?
Try to go on this side.
Also, before you turn the sander on, when he was doing that, I don't know if you noticed that I took my individual block and I was kind of going around the edges and using my hand to feel where it was rough or where the splinters were. So you just, and luckily this block goes right almost directly same size in between these metal pieces. So a good way to is also just follow along with your hand very lightly to see if there's bumps where the wood is not even. So that's what I'm doing with the block. While he's
So I'll try to work on some of these dark spots.
Okay, great. So we're almost done with the sanding process, and before we finish the very last piece, I wanted to show everyone the difference now between what was done now and what was the way it looked earlier. So let's look down at the very bottom of the barrel, and you can see the real dark spot. That's where we haven't sanded yet, and then above it you can see, and by the side of it, the nice light wood that's ready for stain. So we're almost done. So Dave, why don't you go ahead and finish that bottom portion,
Okay.
and then I'll finish with my end.
How does that look, Bridget?
Wow, I think it looks terrific. It's amazing. Just by rubbing my hand over, and you can feel it's so much smoother. And the most important thing too about sanding, it's very time consuming, but it's really a very, very important step, especially if you're going to use the barrel as a pub table inside your home, because if you have guests standing by it or sitting in a chair by it, you don't want them to rub their legs and get splinters. That would be really uncomfortable. So it's one thing if your barrel is going to be out in your garden or in your backyard where no one's going to be sitting near it or touching it, but it's another thing when you have company. So do not cut the steps, especially for sanding. Take your time. It is time consuming, but in the long run, it's worth it. So great job.
You too.
Now we're on to the next step. We're back in the studio now with Dave, and we're ready to apply the stain to the barrel. Before we go ahead and apply the stain, I wanted to talk about some different methods of application and also containers to use while you're doing the stain. So two different ways to apply the stain. One is to use a brush, and the other is to use a lint-free white rag. And I think what we're going to try and do, we talked about it, we're going to do both methods.
Okay.
Which one do you prefer?
I prefer the brush, but we'll see which one comes out better.
So Dave seems to want to use the brush, so I'm going to go ahead and use the rag so we can show people at home the two different methods of applying the stain. I also wanted to say that before you use the stain, make sure you read the back of the label. The writing is very, very tiny, so I need my readers to use that. So make sure you actually read all the instructions on the back before you go ahead and do it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't use these glasses as goggles, but to read the back, you really to make sure you have to read the small writing. So, okay. Remember, safety first. Don't forget to wear your gloves and have your goggles on. And we're ready to go ahead and start with the application of the stain. So let me put my mask on, and then Dave's going to use the brush, and I'm going to go ahead and use the rag. We're going to start with the first band, and we're going to work in between the metal.
Yes.
No matter what method you use, whether you use the rag or the brush, you have to always have another rag to wipe down. So we're going to apply with the brush and the rag, and when you apply, you want to take your other rag and kind of blend it in and take off the excess stain. So Dave's going to have a rag and I'm going to have a rag, and we'll show you how this works. Safety first. How's it looking over there, Dave?
It looks great. Nice. This is exactly what I thought it would look like when we saw this color stain. It's nice and deep and rich, and I see what you mean about the excess stain.
So you just want to kind of blend it in.
Yeah,
And if it gets on the metal band, just take your rag
that'll wipe right off.
and wipe it off. Now you can see Dave using the brush method and I'm using the rag method. And we can kind of compare and see if there's a difference in the way the stain looks on the wood. So I wanted to stop and take a look at the project before we continue to show you the two different techniques and how it looks on the wood. On my side, I used the rag, and you can see that a little bit more of the grain is showing through. On Dave's side, using the brush, it applied it a little bit heavier, and you can't see the grain quite as much with the brush application. So what do you think for your project? What do you think for your home?
Yeah, Bridget, clearly I like the side that you did better with the rag. It looks like I had too much stain on the brush and you were able to control it better on the rag. So I'm going to switch to the rag.
Okay.
And to do the rest of it. I really like how that grain pops.
Great. Okay, so then that's what happens sometimes when you're working on a project. It's okay to switch gears. You just want to make sure you don't do too much of the project,
Yep.
So you don't have to, rewind and fix what you didn't like. So we're going to go ahead and both use the rag method and go ahead and finish the wood part of the barrel.
Perfect, let's go.
Great. So now that Dave and I are done with the rag application of the stain to the barrel, Dave's going around and making sure that it's uniform, the spots that he did and the spots that I did. Now there's also a couple spots where the wood is chunked out a little bit, so he's taking the brush and dabbing it so he can get on the inside, but we couldn't get to with the rag. So he's just going ahead and that's what he's doing to kind of finish up the application of the stain.
Still making sure to wipe off the excess, like you said, so we keep that grain showing, which looks really, really good.
So you can see with the stain, you can see how it absorbs into the wood, and you can still see the beautiful grain underneath and some light spots that came through that wasn't absorbed by the stain. So it's going to look really good. Getting ready for the next step. So the next step is going to be to apply the polyurethane. Dave had mentioned that he wanted a shiny look to the top coat. So while we're waiting for this to dry, I thought we would go over some of the options for the top. We had gone to the flea market and we found this option. So let's go ahead and put this on and show everybody this option. Okay. This was the piece of glass that we found at the Germantown flea market. Originally, do you want to tell everybody what you thought about going with the glass and the label?
Well, I think because the barrel has some history and the company that made the product in the barrel dates back to George Washington, it would have been nice to see the stamp on the top of the barrel. But, because it's a pub table and just for its general use, I got a little concerned from a safety aspect with the long glass overhang, that if someone was to slam a bottle down, I was just concerned that it could crack the glass, it could chip the glass, and someone could get hurt. So as much as I like seeing the stamp, I was a little worried about the glass.
Okay. So we talked about this, and we came up with some different options instead of the glass. So that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah.
you have it in your mind what you think the vision is. You thought glass, and it looks amazing, but for
Yeah.
practicality-wise, it's really probably not the best top for your use. So we came up with a different option. So let's remove this down. Is a piece of granite on top. So what the plan is, I had gone out to a local granite shop in town here in Gaithersburg, and I went and looked at some remnants that they had for a possible granite top. I thought that this color, this is just a sample, this might not be what he chooses, but the thought is we're going to go get a round piece. And what dimensions did you think would work perfect?
Probably the best option is 34 inches. So again, just a couple inches shorter than the glass, but for the space I have, I think 34 is the right dimension, and it still gives people a little space to get their knees underneath the tabletop when they're sitting at the table.
Great. So this is going to be the option we choose. I think we're going to go to the granite shop and look for a 34-inch round piece. We're ready for the final step in the process, the application of the polyurethane. I have my readers back on because I needed to read the back of the polyurethane can, and it's the teeny weeny writing. And just wanted to make sure, sometimes I'm using all these different products and even I forget which ones do you stir, which ones do you not stir. The polyurethane you do not want to stir because you don't want the bubbles. You want it to be as smooth as possible when you're applying. So we're going to go ahead and apply it with a brush. And that's really, with this type of polyurethane, you want to use a brush. There are white bond polys that you can use with a rag, but we're not going to use it for this because you want a pretty glossy finish. So Dave is going to work with a 2.5-inch brush, and he's going to work on the larger portions of the wood, and I'm going to use a 2-inch brush and work on some of the smaller portions. So what you want to do is make sure you go with the grain still, dip it in.
Do we go light on the poly?
You want to just kind of go with a light coat, try and be very cognizant of not hitting the metal. Go up and down, north and south still like you did with the application of the stain. I made the cardinal mistake of not remembering to put on my goggles and my safety mask. So we have to make sure we do that. Always remember safety first. And make sure you're all prepared with your goggles, your safety mask, and your gloves. So Dave is just touching up little spots of the polyurethane for coat number 1. We're going to let this dry, and I'm going to go ahead and apply with Dave probably 2 more coats of the polyurethane. But for right now, we're just finishing up this first coat. We'll do 2 more coats, and then we're off to the Granite Man. So
It looks great. I love it.
great. Dave's happy, and now we're off to Granite. We're here on location at the Thomas Marble and Granite Shop in Gaithersburg, and we have an appointment with Alan to go over some choices that Dave's going to look at for the remnant piece of granite to finish off the pub table. So
Great. I'm looking forward to it, and I understand that remnant pieces might be a little more cost effective.
yeah, for this project, it's really going to be beneficial to be here. They have spare pieces of granite that they use from projects that are left over, and they call them remnants. And it's usually cost effective for you to go to these shops and ask if they have these pieces, because you can get something made to your specifications that would work for the budget, most likely. So let's go meet with Alan and see what he has.
Sounds good.
Hi there.
Hey Alan, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good to see you again.
Me too.
This is Dave.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Dave.
You want to tell Alan a little bit about what you're looking for your project?
So Alan, we have this beautiful old barrel that we're turning into a pub table.
Okay.
And we've just refinished the barrel, and now we're looking for the top. And I was thinking that, granite would be a nice alternative. We've tried a couple things, and I think that's going to be the most practical and probably the best looking alternative. So we understand you have some remnants, and we're just looking for one that we can cut 34 inches round.
All right, sweet. Well, basically, all these remnants are available, so anything that would give the size, we can, cut into any shape. So in this case, something round. So if you guys want to start looking around here, just take it from here.
Okay, that sounds good. And I understand that cost, it does matter. So is a remnant going to be a little bit more cost effective?
Yeah,
in this case?
Remnants is the way to go if you're trying to save money, because they're obviously leftover pieces from bigger pieces. So our remnant prices start at $30 a square foot. So can't go wrong with that.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's look at what you have.
Okay, great.
What do you think of this piece, Bridget?
Now, I saw that piece when we were walking from the car. I really like this piece. I think this looks nice. It has a little more gray in it, so if you wanted to maybe keep the metal bands, the finish that they are right now, that would look nice. It would be a nice accent to the dark stain. If you wanted to pull a little more gold to paint the bands maybe a gold color, I don't know if this is the right
Okay.
choice.
I mean that's nice. I like the colors. It's an interesting piece. Alan, this is big enough?
Let me double check. Pretty sure. Yeah, that's plenty big. Now, if you guys don't see anything out here, we can go inside and take a look at my other remnants I have inside.
Okay. Well, I think this is at the top of the list right now. I like that a lot, Bridget.
Okay, now what about, there was another one that we kind of looked through. Now, is this one, Alan, not big enough?
Let me double check and just move these out of
This one, I think, Dave, you had seen that it has the colors similar to the one in the back, but there's not quite so much gray. So I think if you wanted to maybe go with a gold paint on the band, the originally that you thought, I think this one would be a little bit better.
This one, unfortunately, is not big enough. We're only getting 31 inches.
Okay.
Okay, so that one is out, but maybe something.
Yeah, size-wise, I do like the way that looks, but size-wise, Alan, I guess we can't get a 34-inch top out of a 31-inch
No,
remnant. So
unfortunately not.
okay.
All right, so can we take a look inside?
Of course.
Okay, let's go. So while we were inside, we looked at some other remnant pieces of granite, and we determined that the piece inside was a little too light.
Yeah, there was a piece I really liked, but with your advice, the darker piece is going to have more of the warmth, and it's a very bright room I'm putting it in, and so I think I think one of the first pieces we saw out here I think is going to work pretty well.
Okay. This piece we also saw that we liked. I think though it has a little bit too much of an orange hue, and you're trying to stay away from orange. So
orange is not a favorite color in my house, so I think a piece that has the warmth in the brown family but doesn't creep into the orange family is what we're going to look for.
Good, that's great. So I think we're going to go with this first piece.
Yep.
All right, great.
All right,
so we're going back to our original one. Awesome. Then let me just tag it here.
There you go.
Great. So
you're going to be able to go ahead and cut that in a 34-inch round?
Yes, 34-inch round. And it should be ready in about a week or so.
Okay, perfect. All right, great. So that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead, Alan will go ahead and cut that into a round 34-inch tabletop for the pub table, and I'm very excited to see how it looks.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Dave, what did you think of the whole day and the whole experience?
Bridget, it was fun working with you on this project, and I think rather than going to the store and buying a piece, the fact that we worked on this together makes this a special piece, and it's custom. It's exactly what I was looking for. It's exactly the right size. It has character, and it was just a great time doing it.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. It was probably my favorite project and one of the ones I liked doing the most from start to finish. So thank you for giving me the challenge of finding the barrel and helping you work on it.
Well, I feel like I helped you work on it. It's a great end product, and it was a lot of fun.
Good.
Okay, well, cheers.
Cheers. Oh, left hand, good luck.
Oh, cheers.
Well, that's it for this episode of Lip Gloss and a Sander. You can follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook. I'm Bridget Edell. Thanks for watching. This episode of Lip Gloss and a Sander was sponsored in part by Amy DePretta and Patricia Elder, Remax Metropolitan, providing clients with over 20 years of experience offering superior marketing, staging, and consulting with VIP quality service. Potomac Basin Group, an NFT company, is a full-service insurance brokerage offering affordable insurance solutions for businesses from 2 to 500 employees and individuals for all of their insurance needs. Potomac Valley Chiropractic, serving the North Potomac and Gaithersburg area. Dr. Spiro Theodore has been restoring people to good health through chiropractic care for over 10 years. Promotional consideration provided by Delaware Design Company, marketing communications with direction. And by 4Dimensional Real Estate Solutions, working with clients to assist with leasing, sales, and all of your commercial real estate requirements.